right. Oh, Christ. Don't be shy. Move in, please. And I won't need to shout as much. Have we got everyone, Gary? Is everyone here that you're expecting? Yeah, fine, okay. Welcome everyone to this special occasion, celebrating Bristol panel signal box. For those of you that don't know me, which will be most, I guess, my name's John Smith. I'm Managing Director of GBRf, who are the proud owner of this beautiful bit of kit behind me. And the problem with always having these events is you battle against other trains and announcements, so we'll just wait for that to go. Now, if you bear with me, before we get on to the main event, I'd just like to fill you in a little bit of history of GBRf. We're now the third largest rail freight operator in the UK. We've been around for about 15 years, and originally it was just me and one other lad who started it. And we're now up to 650 souls throughout the UK, and we operate trains from as far north as Inverness, right the way down into the southwest. We whisper it quietly, but we're also getting involved with passenger trains at the moment, and people are horrible things. They're not quite like lumps of coal or lumps of aggregate. You complain, you are unreasonable as to what we should do when we drive our trains, so I think we'll stick to freight in future. The southwest, down this area, I was born just down the road from here in Weston, is one of the last areas actually that GB Rail Freight has managed to move into. But once we get a foothold, once we get our toe through the door, we tend to grow quite rapidly. More recently down here we've been doing some aggregates over in South Wales, to Pengham, up near Swansea. We've had a long-term established group of people working for us in the steelworks at Cardiff. We've been running petrol into there as well. And more recently we've just won a 5-year deal with a company called Siniat, which is taking gypsum down onto the docks here from one of the power stations up in the East Meads. Whisper it quietly, we do intend to move into the Mendip quarries, and hopefully, fingers crossed, and I'm not sure it's on the panel, but we should be operating out of Whatley very shortly with a train up into the Midlands. And last but by no means least, and this is where we get a little schizophrenic about life, we also are beginning to operate for Network Rail down here. So not only the signal box is really our supplier of services from Network Rail's point of view, but we're also deal with you as a customer. And we've been moving stone out of the Westbury area, and some of the lads who are with us from GB Rail Freight have been doing that on a regular basis recently. Now, when I was approached about doing a naming like this, we've done a few before, I have to say, up in the east of the country. But I always think it's a great thing to do any event that brokers relationships between the train crew and the signallers. The relationship is hugely important, and far too often the relationship is purely on the end of a phone and you never see the faces that you're talking to. So this gives us an excuse to do that. The signallers here, you keep us safe. You know, the relationship as it stands is always safety based, and I guess it almost goes unsaid. But you keep us safe on a day-to-day basis. But I think it's important for those of you that work the panel to appreciate how important you are to us commercially. Our trains, we're not like that thing behind you that carries all the people there for Great Western. We tend to run one train a day between somewhere and somewhere. When things are going wrong, we need to get through. We can't just stop, cancel one and pick up the next one and move our aggregates or whatever it is onto that. So how you deal with us on a day-to-day basis when things are going wrong is hugely important to us. Because not only if we get cancellation of one of our services, and again I'll just wait for that to roll by, not only when we get problems, if we get cancellation, do we get cancellation of one of our services, it makes it difficult for us to regain that train on the day, but also quite often it means that we have to cancel the next train back, so it's hugely important for us. And I think if you were to benchmark you, because we're owned by the French, bless their cotton socks, by Eurotunnel, and we operate trains into Italy, we operate trains into Spain, and we operate trains into France. And when we benchmark Network Rail as a whole against SNCF, and this isn't often said, and you don't often shout loud enough about this, you are light years ahead of those that we deal with elsewhere in the country. I'm very grateful to be able to do this today. As I've already said, you keep us safe, you help us commercially, you also on the larger scale, which Pete has responsibility for, you invest in the infrastructure, which you're doing at the moment hugely on the Great Western, to help us run more freight trains, and you're bloody good at it. And as I've said, I think you should shout that more loudly.
Here, but it's very nice to meet you all. I do know something about railways because in the last job I had one of my own, but it was very small. It had no freight on it, but it did have a lot of people. And just to reassure you, we had signalling equipment as old as what you've got in that panel, and indeed older. And I had some equally fabulous people who made it all work and tried to maintain it as much as they could. So I've only really got to...
It's former England international Will Greenwood here. Rugby World Cup 2015 is underway. Trains and stations will be much busier on match day. Beat the crowds and plan ahead. Check before you travel. Visit rugbyworldcup.com/game.
There you are. So during the Olympics I got Boris to do that, and it was terrifying actually. He thought he was personally responsible for emptying all the shops in Oxford Street on the opening night of the Olympics. Nearly cost me my job. So there's really two things I wanted to say. My little railway in London was an integrated railway. We got it back from the PPP. It was quite easy to run because the guy who ran it was in charge of the track, the signals and the trains and all the staff. The National Railway Network isn't quite like that, and I don't suppose, certainly in my lifetime, it looks as if it's ever going to be like that. So it seems to me it has to work on cooperation. And what John's doing today is an essential part of getting the bits of the railway to work together, probably better than maybe they've done in the past. And that's really important because the railway is growing. One of the things that I learnt with surprise when I came here is the volume of passenger and freight growth on the railways. It's a great story, but it's not often told because the media is full of bad news about all sorts of stuff that if it isn't true, they make it up and print it anyway. And actually the railway is growing very fast and it needs far more cooperation now and in the future than it ever did before. So the serious point about what he's doing is to actually engender some cooperation to make the railway work better, which I celebrate very much. And then the less serious bit that he's doing is unashamed bribery, as he says. If you haven't pointed it out, I'll have pointed it out anyway. If you look at his locomotives around the country, they've got all sorts of names on of people and institutions he wants to persuade to do him a favour. So actually there is one with my name on it rolling around the country. It never comes here. He knows I live in Bath, so it's always in Sheffield. But it will get here one day, I expect. But that was a celebration actually for London Transport Museum. And he does this because he wants, as he said, he wants when his train comes onto the edge of your panel area, he wants green signals all the way, and he wants you to remember when you see the picture and the model of the engine and a nameplate up on the wall of the box.
Invited up for a cup of tea, and my signal said, "You'll name one of our engines." Oh yeah, I'll text the boss. And then this happened. So thank you to you two for a lot for this. We're honoured, absolutely honoured to have this privilege, and believe me, it means a lot to us to actually be recognised. As people can see, our box has been sat in the corner since 1970, and most people don't even know we're there or know what we do. And it is nice to be recognised. We've always encouraged a good cooperation between the operators and us as operations, and we will continue to do so no matter what happens. As our box sort of starts to wind down to the twilight of his life, you know, hopefully this engine's got a lot more life in it and will continue going around the network. So thank you so much for this privilege, really is appreciated, and thank you from all of us.
Who do you want to pull the string then? Should we get the two the two crooks who set this up in the first place? I think they're probably the best ones. Come on.